topic, that is data management. So let us just start. See, first thing we need to know what is data management in Excel. Okay. So data management is nothing but making the data ready for use. Okay. Cleaning the data and making the data ready for use. Okay. So once we make the data ready for use, uh, why do we need to make the data ready for use? Because if we have such kind of data that is being shown on the screen, what will you guys do and how will you actually segregate the data to actually make it usable? Okay, such kind of data is not usable by default. So what we can do is first we can copy the data here to the data management sheet. Okay. And here, right now, if you see, what is the consistency in the full data that we can actually identify? See, there are similar lines separating different columns in this particular data. Okay. So each and every column is separated by this particular line here, which is actually called as a delimiter. Any symbol which is separating more than one columns is actually called as a delimiter. Okay. So when we have such kind of delimiters, we can use an option called text to columns. So for that, what I'll do is first I'll select the whole data. See, even though data seems to be there in all the columns here, but it is there only in the first column. Okay, only in the column A. So now I'll just select the data that I want to actually separate it properly into different columns. So I'll go to the data tab here. And in the data tab, if you see, there is something called as text to columns. So we have text to columns here, and here I can just see there are two options for the text to columns. First is delimited and fixed one. Since our data already has delimiter, that is common identifiers, which is separating each and every column, what we can do is we can select the delimited column here, and then next. And here, these are not the symbols that are separating the columns for me. So what I'll do, I'll just select other here and put my symbol, which is actually selecting the, differentiating the columns. So as soon as I put the symbol here, you guys can see the difference. See, right now the data is unorganized, but immediately the data gets organized in Excel itself. Okay. Now I can just finish this particular thing here. So once I do this, what will happen? All the columns are properly segregated into different columns. Now the next thing what we need to do is, see, we can use a length function to determine the length of a character. Okay, length of characters in one particular cell. So when I'm using length here and saying I'm selecting John Smith, it is telling me there are 18 characters in this particular B2 cell. Okay. So actually saying, if you see here, John Smith has only 10 characters. J is one character, O, H, N, that is 4. One space is there, so 5. And another 5 characters. So totally there are 10 characters. But the formula length is telling me that there are 18 characters in this box. So in such cases, what we can do, we can assume is there are unwanted blank spaces in this data. Okay, unwanted blank spaces in this data, which we can actually remove through trim formula. Okay, so now let us just use the trim formula here is equal to trim, and let me just select the whole data that I want to trim. So once I have used the trim formula, you can see the whole data is appearing on the screen. Now I can just copy the trimmed data, that is all the unnecessary spaces have been removed through the formula, and I am pasting it as special values here. I'm just right clicking on this particular data and I'm pasting as special and values. Okay. Why I'm pasting as values is I want to remove the formula from this particular table here. So the formulas are removed, only the data is pasted here. Okay. Now, once the data is pasted, what I can do is I can remove the formula here. And now, if you see, there are certain things appearing, there are certain errors appearing in the data. So since we learned in the first basic session itself that numbers should be aligned to the right in Excel, because if numbers are aligned to the left, Excel will not be able to understand the numbers. Okay. So here itself, Excel itself is saying that these might be numbers, so they are stored as text. So we can use this particular error box to actually convert these into the numbers itself. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll select this whole column here. I'll select the error box here and I'll just say convert to number. So all the numbers are properly formatted into numbers now. In the same way I have to do for salary column also. I'll just select the whole column. I'll select the error box and I'll just say convert to numbers. Okay. And over and above that, for the joining date, I can just do the same thing. I can select the joining dates. I'll just say convert to numbers. As simple as that. And since this is not being able to convert because this is not being identified as date, so I'll just change this date to this. Okay. Now I have to format the dates properly. So to format the dates properly, I'm selecting the whole column here, going to Home tab, and then I'll just go to this option where the formatting options are available. I'll say it is short date. Okay. So short date is actually formatting the date properly now. Now, since our data is properly formatted and now it is actually ready for use. So before making it ready for use, what we did, we actually used text to columns. We identified the delimiters. We used text to columns. Then we used length function and we used trim formula. Okay. Over and above that, if suppose we have a situation where we need to actually separate the first name from the last name. Okay. We have to separate the first name from the last name. So if you can find any commonality between the data here in the name section, you can always do the work very easily in Excel. Okay. You just need to find one particular common thing in Excel to do the thing properly. Okay. Now, yes. Now what we can do is, yeah, good evening, Babu. So now what we can do actually is here to separate the first name from the last name, we can use a tool called flash fill. Okay. There is a tool in this particular data tab is actually called as flash fill. So when I have to separate the first name from the last name, what I'll do, I'll just type John. Only for the first row, I'll just type it manually. I'm just separating it manually. Just typing John and Smith manually here and separating it. From the second data, I can just keep the cursor here and select the flash fill option here. So one of the shortcut for flash fill option is Control and E. If you can see for the flash fill, there is Control and E as a shortcut here. So I'll just use that particular shortcut to separate the data here. Okay. So now if you see my first name and last name are very easily separated. I did not do any manual work other than the first row. Okay. In the same way, if suppose your data has duplicates, for example, I'll duplicate the data here. Okay. So Emily Wilson is there like 4 to 5 times, and over and above that, if you see at the end, there are certain duplicate datas here. Eva Mitchell is there 2 times. So if such particular data is there in your Excel file, what you can do is you can select the whole data wherever the duplicates are there. I'll just go to the data tab here, and there is an option to remove the duplicates from this particular data. So when I'm using that, see, it's asking me, should I remove the duplicates from all the columns? So I'll say yes. I'll take all the other column and I'll say okay. Now the duplicate data is removed from all the columns. Whatever duplicate data was there, it is all removed. Okay. And the remaining data is being kept here. As simple as that. So these are actually the very effective data management techniques or data cleaning techniques which we use in Excel to make our work easier. Okay. So does anyone have any doubts in this? Anyone has any doubts in this? You can just chat in the live chat box. I'll reply to you or I can always clarify things to you. Okay. So if nobody has any doubts, what we can actually do is we can go ahead and see one more data validation tool that is actually called as data validation itself. Okay. So when I'm using a data validation tool, let me just use another file or I can use the file itself to actually do the data validation. So for example, if I have here employee name and I have the employee department. Okay. So what I want to do is based on these two data, I actually want to populate the employee salary. Okay, I want to populate the employee salary. since I'm doing it in the same sheet so that you guys can understand. Generally, we don't keep it in the same sheet. Okay. So when we have such a thing here, yeah. So when the employee name and employee department are entered here, I want the salary of that particular employee. So to get the salary, what I can do is I can put a VLOOKUP. Going forward, we'll learn the VLOOKUP formula also. For now, you can just concentrate on the data validation part. Okay. So for a VLOOKUP, if based on employee name, I want the salary to be populated. What I can do is I can select this. I'll select the whole table array here. And then I'll just say column index number is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is exact match. So once I do this, here the formula is applied. Now, if suppose I am giving them an option to select from the existing employee, obviously here if only if they know such kind of employees exist, they will come and enter John Smith or something like that. Correct. So if they don't know who all are there in the who all are 4, 3, who are there in the company, then only they'll be able to enter the name here, correct? But I want to give them a drop down option here. So to give them a drop down option, what I can do is I can go to the data tab here and I can just select the data validation tool here. So once I select the data validation tool, what I can do is I can just go into this and select from a list, because I already have a list of employees that I have in this particular company. I'll say that I want to create a data validation from the list. So I'll select the list here and I'll select the source. Source is again where this is my source where the employee names are existing. So I'm just selecting this full column wherever the data is there. Now I'll just say OK. As soon as I say OK here, see what is happening. A drop down is being created. You can see a small arrow mark is being created here. Okay, I'll zoom in so that you guys can see it properly. Okay, I think most probably now it is visible to everyone. So yeah, now if you see the full drop down of all the employee names are available to me here. Even if I don't know the names here, what I can do, I can just go and select the name and I'll get the salary of the employee. Okay, so this is how we actually create a drop down list in Excel. This is also a data validation tool. Why? Because this actually limits the data that is being entered into the Excel. Okay, Excel cell. So how can we limit the data that is being entered into the, I have to keep a check before anyone enters the data into the cell itself. So what I can do is I can just go to the data validation tool. See, I've already created a data validation here. Over and above that, I can just create an alert. Okay. So if you see an alert by default, stop alert is there. What this means is if I enter something which is not there in the list, for example, I'm entering my name. Okay, it will reject. See, this particular error box will be shown and this data will be rejected, saying that this particular data does not exist in the list. That means you will be able to select whatever data is there only in the list. How this data validation is useful? If suppose you are getting an Aadhaar number from someone, okay? We all know that Aadhaar number is 12-digit number, correct? So if anyone is entering 13-digit number, you shouldn't go and check later on and say that, okay, this Aadhaar number is wrong. Maybe that person might not be even reachable after getting the Aadhaar number, correct? So while he is entering itself, we are keeping a check saying that if the digits are not 12 digits or more than 12 digits or less than 12 digits, I'll not accept the Aadhaar number. Okay. So at that point of time only what he'll have to do, the user will have to enter the Aadhaar number correctly. Okay. So this is one of the example of how data validation can be used. We are keeping a check while the data is being entered itself. Okay. So now by default, as we saw in the data tab, uh, by default, the style stop is always applied on the data validation. If I want to change the style, I can always say I can change it to warning also. Okay. So if I change it to warning, what will happen is only a warning message will be shown, but the data will still be accepted. So now if I enter Rupkumar here, see, the data will see the warning is shown. If I want to continue, I can accept it. If I say yes, the data will still be accepted into the cell. Okay. Even though the data is not there in this particular data, Rup Kumar name is not there in this particular data, it will still be accepted here. Okay. Now, in the same way, we have one more kind of alert here that is called as information alert. So this alert does nothing but it just gives us an alert information that, okay, you are entering a wrong data. And if I say, okay, it will still accept the data. Okay. So we have to always use a stop style. We have to always use a stop style in case if we want to restrict the data that is being entered into the cell. Okay. And also we can always customize the error message also. For example, I can just say uh, employee name error, title of the message box or the error box, enter the correct employee name. So this is my customized error that I am showing here. Now, if anyone enters any wrong name here, see, automatically a customized error box is being shown where I have designed it. Employee name is the title of the error box and enter the correct employee name is the message which is being shown. And even if I retry, I'll not be able to enter because I have selected the stop style of the data validation tool. Okay. But there is a very, very small hack to this particular option. Okay. See, I cannot enter anything here, yes. But if suppose I have entered something here in other cell, and if I'm copying and pasting it here, okay, if I'm copying and pasting it here, it will be accepted. So this is a loophole to the data validation tool. Anyone who knows this loophole can always use this, saying that if they don't want to, if they know data validations are applied and if they don't want to enter the correct data, what they can do, they can type it somewhere else in the cell. They can copy and paste that particular thing in this particular cell so that the data validation will still be accepted. Even though it is not acceptable, it will still be accepted. So this is a one of the loophole in the data validation tool. Okay. Now if I select the proper data here, what will happen? The proper salary will be populated for that particular employee name. Okay, so Robert David has 70,000 as salary, Christopher Hall has 75,000 as salary. Okay. And over and above that, if suppose you want to give the user the information, okay, what is happening here? You want to give them the information. So in that case, in the data validation itself, in the input message, what you can do, you can always go and add an input message saying that uh, enter existing employee name or select, we can say select existing employee names. So you can just say select existing employee names and we can just say input messages select the employee names from the list. Okay, so once I give this input message, what will happen is if the user don't know what he wants, what he has to do here, if he keeps the cursor on the cell, you can see an input message is actually displayed which will help him. It's an helper message saying that you have to do this here, or it is just an informational message saying that this can be done here. Okay, so this is how we actually use a data validation to actually restrict the data from being entered into a cell. Okay. Over and above this, we have covered all the data management tools here, text to columns. We have covered flash fill, we have covered remove duplicates, and we have covered data validation tools. So does anyone have any doubt in anything? They can always ask me. If you guys have doubt, you can always ask me in a live chat so that I can clarify. So anyone has any doubts? So anyone has any doubts? Okay. If nobody has any doubts, what we can do is we can go ahead and end today's session. Thank you for coming for the session, guys. Let's meet tomorrow. And tomorrow's topic will be published in the group. Please join the group to know what we are having tomorrow. Okay. Thank you, guys. Bye. See you tomorrow. Okay. If nobody has any doubts, what we can do is we can go ahead and end today's session.